A step parenting expert, Chris Burns.
Women's mindset coach and stepmom, Chris Burns.
Welcome to the Step Parent Podcast. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Chris, step parent of 10 years and Australia's leading coach for step parents. Let's dive into today's episode. We are talking about Christmas boundaries in blended families because they are not optional, they are essential. Without them, you will spend the entire season resentful, exhausted, and emotionally wiped out. The truth is, most step parents do not set boundaries at Christmas because they feel guilty. Guilty for having needs, guilty for speaking up, guilty for ruining the vibe, guilty for not wanting to carry everyone else's emotional load. But boundaries are what protect connection. Boundaries are what create safety. Boundaries are what stop you from slipping into martyr mode and then wondering why you are crying in the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Christmas Day. A Christmas boundary is not you being difficult. It is you being self-respectful. It is you saying, I know my limits and I am not willing to override them anymore. Christmas is one of the easiest times to lose yourself because everything's really heightened. The expectations are bigger, the pressure is louder, the emotional temperature in the home is higher. Kids are dysregulated, parents are stressed out, plans shift, people are drinking, old stories are being replayed, perhaps from childhood as well, and you end up playing the referee, the event planner, the peacekeeper, the gift wrapper, emotional support animal, and the designated freaking adult who keeps everything together. So let's talk about the boundaries that actually matter. The first is your capacity. So you are allowed to say, I can do this, but I cannot do that. You're allowed to say, I can help cook, but I'm not going to do everything. You are allowed to say, I need 20 minutes to decompress before we leave. You are also allowed to say, I'm not staying here all day. This is the time that we're going to go. You're allowed to walk away from a conversation that might feel uncomfortable or disrespectful. You're allowed to protect your energy, even if someone else does not really understand why you need to. It's not about them. The next boundary is emotional responsibility. So you are not responsible for everyone's feelings. You are not responsible for smoothing over tension between households, and you are not responsible for managing your partner's guilt. You're not responsible for fixing the kids' emotions after a chaotic changeover. You're not responsible for making Christmas fucking perfect. You can be supportive without being sacrificial. You can be present without being drained. So you can hold space without holding the entire emotional fucking universe. When your brain starts going to, they're upset, I need to fix it, you can gently remind yourself, I can support them, but I don't need to save them. Like, that is so important at Christmas time, particularly. Another big boundary is your involvement. You get to choose what role you want to play, not the role that people expect you to play. If you want to go all out and create the magic, then do that. But if you want to contribute without carrying the load, do that. If you want to observe more, and rather than being like heavily involved and participating, then do that. If you want to skip parts of the day that feel overwhelming, you don't owe anyone a fucking performance. So you can opt out of certain conversations and you can sit at the kids' table if that feels better for you. But, I think the main point here is that you can say no to extra events. Like you can say no to the extracurricular things throughout the day of Christmas. You're allowed to be a human before you're a step parent. Like you're a woman or you're a man, you're a human first. So the next big thing that I want to speak to is something that we've all experienced, but this comes back to my childhood, and it's boundaries at changeover. You're allowed to say, I'm not engaging in last minute chaos. This is the plan we agreed to and I'm sticking to it. You can literally say, I am not available to change things last minute today. It is too much for our home and for our kids. That's not spiteful. That's protective, right? Christmas boundaries are also about expectations, yours and theirs. You can't really expect people to honor a boundary if you've never bothered to communicate it. And most parents hope people will just know, but people cannot honor what they don't understand, right? So you have to verbalize the things that you usually may swallow around this time of year. You have to say the sentence that you're scared to say. You have to stand in the discomfort long enough to protect your peace. And that might sound like, I love you and I'm not available for that conversation today. Or I want to be there, but leaving at this time is really important for me. Or if the tone continues like this, I'm going to step out for a bit. The boundary that changes everything is the permission slip to not match other people's emotional state. If someone is stressed, you do not have to be stressed. If someone is anxious, you do not have to be anxious. If someone is playing out old wounds, you do not have to join them. Your nervous system gets to stay yours, and that's the freaking freedom. You can imagine a clear line around your body and silently tell yourself, Their feelings stay with them. My feelings stay with me. That small internal visualization is boundary work, and it's really great for you to do when you are feeling heightened in those moments.
You know the thing that you'd never say out loud about being a step parent? Say it here. If I'm Honest is the new segment on the Step Parent podcast, a space for raw, unfiltered, anonymous stories from real step parents. I'll be reacting live on the podcast, no names, just honesty. Because if we can't be honest, then we can't heal.
I also want you to have a think about time boundaries, like how much time you are available for certain environments before your body starts to shut down or disassociate. You might decide I'm good for 3 hours. After that, I start to fray. So you might want to plan your entry and exit accordingly. Think ahead, be intentional with your time, be intentional with your language, be intentional with your boundaries, be intentional with your expectations to your partner. Communicate clearly what you need. That is preventative care. And then there are the spoken boundaries versus the energetic boundaries, okay? So spoken boundaries are the sentences that you say out loud. Energetic boundaries are the choices that you make with your behavior. Choosing to not over-explain, choosing to not chase, choosing not to justify, choosing not to sit in the middle of two adults who refuse to regulate themselves. You might not say a word, but your body's choice is to disengage. Silence can be a boundary when it comes to self-respect, not shut down. So we want to make sure that your silence is coming from a place of intention and not from disassociation. Christmas becomes peaceful when you stop making yourself responsible for holding the entire family together, when you stop contorting yourself to meet every need. You are the adult. You get to be the one who decides how you tolerate being spoken to, how much labor you're going to carry on the day, and how much of yourself that you're willing to give. Boundaries are not walls, they're clarity, and clarity is kindness. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but what is the alternative? Another Christmas where you crumble under the weight of things that you never really agreed to carry? Another Christmas where you smile swallowing resentment? Another Christmas where you abandon yourself to keep everyone happy? You've done that before. It didn't work, did it? So this year gets to feel different if you choose it and if you back that choice with action, not just intention. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Please make sure that you hit subscribe on YouTube or follow on Spotify so you get the notification when the next step goes live. See you next week.